Guys, my name is Ananya, and today we're going to be focusing on creating noise visuals and incorporating that with MediaPipe to create interactive visuals, which will then be projection mapped onto water or ideally anything of your choice. So let's see and let's delve into this a little bit deeper. It will be broken down into 4 main things. We're going to start off by building the MediaPipe and audio control. This will help recognize our hand movement and work with audio based on our hand movements. Then we will create the actual particle visuals, which was inspired by a tutorial that is linked in the description below. And we will create yet another visual, which is your option if you would like to use it. It is inspired by another tutorial, which is also linked in the description below. Then we will render it together and then project it onto Kantan Mapper and project it onto whatever we want to. So we're going to start off by firstly deleting everything and building the MediaPipe and audio control setups to save time, but let's get into what we did. So I first dragged the MediaPipe talks into Touch Designer alongside the hand tracking and the pose tracking talks. I then switched off whatever was irrelevant for this project and then connected the nodes to what I needed. Then, specifically focusing on the output chop 3 helpers, I selected what I wanted to use, which in this case would be the midpoint rotation and the midpoint distance. As for the pose tracking, we wanted to focus on creating audio control with our wrists, as we are creating a blooming effect. So with the blooming effect, we're going to need the midpoint distance for the pinches, which is what we can tell is being measured over here, right here, and the rotation values, which slightly change over here. For our wrists, it goes up and down for audio control. So by connecting a null, we can see all the channels that are available. Then I selected the left wrist, and I first experimented by seeing what are the current ranges. So we see 0.1 to 0.7. I then see the range that I have or experiment with, put that range, and then convert it to a 0.1. I do the same for the midpoint rotation and the midpoint distance. I then connected it to a lag to get the data to change a bit more swiftly, but specifically for the midpoint distance, I realized that it goes up to 2.8 and closes down to 0.3. That is the range that I had picked, I believe. So when it goes up to 2.8 or almost 3 and goes down to 0.2, I use that as my range to work backwards. So it goes from 0 to 1, which is our range right here, 0 to 1, and then put the range to 2 when my hands are completely open, and 0.6, which is the number I get when my hands are completely closed. Then I chose the audio using audio file in, which is the Oppenheimer's Can You Hear the Music, and then connected it to an audio device out. I then connected this lag over here, made it active, and then dragged this onto volume. This will help control the volume as I move my wrist up and down. Now we're going to be creating our noise visuals and our rendering setup. Now this was inspired by an artist whose video I've linked in the description below. I've made certain changes and I will be explaining specifically what those changes are and how to connect MediaPipe to the visual that we're creating. So first, as you can see, I've followed the tutorial to create the setup that I need to in order to get the results that I want. Then, using the rectangle tops, we transform the size to 0.001. So essentially, our camera will consist of mini squares. We render the setup and adjust the camera according to what we need, and turn on instancing. Once we turn on instancing, we can connect our relevant nodes for position to get what we need. In this case, we get the R, we have the G, link to nodes. In order to create the visuals that you would like, it's important that you experiment with any of the values you see here. For example, by messing around the period, we can see what kind of different and wild shapes we can get. At the same time, we can work with the harmonics or the harmonic spread And also, I realized we can also experiment with the type of patterns we use. For example, a sine pattern will look much different as compared to a triangle one, as compared to a ramp, or as compared to a cosine. So it's fully experimental and dependent on what you would like to make. However, I prefer the ramp. To decide on what kind of noise visuals you like, it is imperative that you connect your render to an RGB key so you can see the particles in the background. You need to make sure that all of them have a custom resolution of 1280 by 1280. And the reason we do this is because in the tutorial, we create a resolution constant that's 1280 and we connect it to the render. So we need to ensure that these three following nodes have the same resolution so that there is no particles that look like they are almost blurry. To get this glowy effect, we use the bloom feature. Now, you're more than welcome to experiment on what kind of values you would like, which is exactly what I did, and how you would like them to show. I did another visual, as seen over here, which is this fire-like visual almost, fire blob visual. I referred to the watercolor tutorial as linked in the description below, but removed a lot of the nodes in order to create a simple visual that can serve as a background that complements the particles. Since the theme is Oppenheimer based, I thought it would be relevant to go with this color scheme. So here we are. We first begin with choosing a noise and just slowly transforming the noise through the z-axis. Then we connect it to a null and a slope, which kind of brings out the edges. Then we displace that slope, connect it to a level, and then we experiment with the values over here to get what you want, like a high brightness or a low brightness. I thought a high brightness would be more appropriate for what I want. Then we use a ramp and a lookup to get the colors that we need. I chose this color scheme, but you're more than welcome to pick whatever you want. Connect this to a lookup and then a null. This should give you the visual to use in the background. How to use Kantan Mapper. So to find Kantan Mapper, you could find it in your mapping and then right here, Kantan Mapper, and drag it onto your screen. Once you click on your screen, you'll first want to go to panel and turn the display off so that we can see our actual mapping rather than the display of the Kantan map. If you want to go to perform, turn the monitor to 1, the borders off, and the opening size to fill. This will allow us to do our projection mapping how we would like to. Now, for example, we can go on Kantan, open Kantan window. I made these two shapes to first show you what it would look like if we were to project our designs onto them. Click on your shape. There are two options, the square option where you can make rectangle or square, or freeform options where you can make circles or anything you would like to map your work onto. Then you want to drag your artwork to the texture. Click on this and it will project the visuals that you would like. Similarly, you can do the same thing for any freeform object. Click on the circle that you've made, drag it onto texture, and project it. Now as you see, when I move my hand, you can see the same visuals. To be able to project this onto what you want to, you would have to close this and click on the perform mode. This will allow your work to be projected onto what you want. here was my project. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and like this video. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section down below. And I've linked my Instagram and my art account if you would like to follow that as well. Have a great day!